And we're now going to start a panel on your skin, your hair, your teeth and smile, and what really works. Today's experts are going to talk to us about what really works. And moderating this panel is Judy Goss. And Judy, who many of you know, is a lifestyle TV host and a QVC host and spokesperson. Dr. Fran Frey is coming on the stage now as a board-certified dermatologist, and she's the author of The Skincare Hoax. Dr. Benjamin Paul is a world-renowned hair transplant surgeon and the founder of Hair Care MD, so he's going to be able to address all those questions with thinning hair. And then Dr. Jeannie Greco is a pioneering biologic restorative dentist, and she is with Rejuvenation Dentistry on Park Avenue, and they are one of our exhibitors today. They have a fabulous product called Revitin. And also, I just have regards from everybody from Dr. Ruffin. She was part of our panel, and she's created something called facial fitness exercise. She has a personal family situation, but she sends her regards to everyone.
So hello, everyone. I'm really excited about our panel. I was speaking to them outside the door earlier. I thought hair, teeth, and skin. Those are subjects that we really need to know about as women, as we age and that type of thing, right? How are we going to all mix them into something that has a commonality that we learn about? And, you know, in speaking with them before this panel, we really did find a commonality, which is awareness. You guys are going to hear some big reveals today, some really exciting, cutting-edge stuff that they have to tell you that you need to be aware of. When you walk out of here, you'll be happy that you heard. And also the confidence that we always want to have as women. I feel like one of the main things that we want to feel when we walk into a room, when we meet someone, when we're dealing with our family, anything that we're doing is confidence. So I'm excited to have them here today.
Thank you.
So let's start with Dr. Paul. So Dr. Paul, as one of the world's foremost hair replacement doctors, which is really exciting because this is a topic I don't feel women are talking about enough. I was really shocked to hear that 40% of women, as opposed to 60% of women, are actually suffering hair loss. And that was really shocking to me because it's not something we talk about. It's not something we bring up. It's like menopause, right? We used to not really talk about that. It's kind of coming out into the open now. And it's really bringing awareness now to that industry. I'm wondering what the most common cause of hair loss actually would be at the moment.
Hi, thank you again for having me. The most common cause of hair loss is called androgenic alopecia, and it's a genetic or inherited form of hair loss that can start as early as the end of puberty. So sometimes women in their 20s can start to see thinning, and then it's something that can show up in the postpartum moments and then in menopause. And basically, it is similar to male pattern hair loss, which everybody's aware of because it's quite visible and spoken about, but it has some differences. The hairs on the head that used to be thick become thinner, so they're not growing as well, kind of like a garden that's begging for fertilizer but is not getting it. Usually the hairline is maintained, and then the part widens. And there's just so much that we can do to treat it, even now compared to 5 or even 10 years ago. So it's a really exciting time for women, and I think it's the time where society needs to start talking about this as something that exists and can be treated, and a lot of people can get help that didn't know they could get help but are probably bothered.
And also, I just want to let everyone know, you don't necessarily have to have a hair transplant if you're losing hair.
Sure. So there's like a treatment ladder, and hair transplant is on the list of the treatment options, but there are a lot of medicines that are available and continue to be sort of discovered and uncovered and re-understood. The most common one that I'm hearing about right now from the lay press or the public is minoxidil or Rogaine, which everyone knows is sort of this topical liquid or foam. And it turns out that what was originally a blood pressure drug as a pill can also be taken as a pill, but at 1/40th the dose, so you don't get any real blood pressure effects, and it works better than the topical.
That's amazing. Very, very fascinating. And so when we think of dentistry, typically we think of teeth cleaning and cosmetic dentistry. And there's a different facet of that that's very interesting. It's biologic restorative dentistry at Rejuvenation Dentistry. Now, you're known worldwide for your pioneering work in biologic restorative dentistry. Can you please tell us what that is and exactly how does it differ from cosmetic dentistry?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So basically, biologic dentistry is treating from a root cause standpoint. So while it can still be very much aesthetically driven, it's looking a little bit more deeply at what could be causing a systemic or chronic issue as we age. So, for example, periodontal disease, it is a very, very big marker for possible, uncontrolled diabetes or potentially high blood pressure. And many people are not aware of that possibility. Another facet of biologic dentistry is looking at materials. Many patients are unaware of the fact that they might have metal crowns or BPA composite fillings, and those can cause major effects on the overall immune system and ability to, live in a very, less inflamed state. We don't realize how many things are actually causing inflammation. And then also we take a little bit of a deeper look at, other treatments that patients might have, such as root canals, which are a very, hot button topic. They can be very useful in a temporary sense, but more often than not, root canals can become reinfected and patients are unaware because the nerves have already been taken out of the tooth. So generally speaking, there's no pain to speak of. And this is something that we learned in dental school, but it's as you get into private practice, it gets very quickly forgotten. Infected root canals can cause an endotoxin release, which allows for chronic inflammation to happen. So, someone might come into our office with elevated blood pressure or recent blood work that says an elevated C-reactive protein, for example, which can be a marker for chronic inflammation or potentially even acute, but it might be coming from an infected root canal. And we delve a little bit more deeply into what could be causing any systemic issues when you come in for your initial exam, when you come in for your regular checkups, if we see anything that looks different or, something that we're monitoring that might become a little bit more of a little bit of an alarm blaring that's showing us something's going on.
So I have twin 18-year-olds, so my blood pressure, it goes up already. And I also have rheumatoid arthritis, so I sound like I may be a candidate to come into your office to maybe see, what else is going on there. Who else would be a candidate for you to come in that may not even know it right now?
Sure. So anybody who, like I said, might be having a hard time with blood pressure or having a hard time with controlling a hemoglobin A1C for their diabetes, or someone who might also be suffering from more of a viral infection such as chronic Lyme disease, or someone who has, for example, Epstein-Barr, which is, typically referred to as mono, someone who might have elevated markers for that and wondering where could it be coming from. It might be exacerbated from a dental issue.
That's fascinating because I don't think we really truly make the connection sometimes to that. So I'm glad that you're here to show us that. Yeah. So Dr. Fry, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
The skincare hoax. Need I ask? I'd like to actually start with what exactly fryface.com is, because I went on the website and I was very intrigued by someone like you who's really showing all of this.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to tell you it's so nice to be in a room with people who value what they look like, take pride in that, enjoy the creativity of makeup, looking good, and I think that's all great, it's all beauty, but I emphasize wellness over beauty. I have nothing against beauty. I have nothing against beauty. I want to put that out there right now, but I am truly an advocate of wellness. So I love the skincare industry. It's a wonderful industry. It makes products that are really good for you. Don't kid yourself. Sunscreens, moisturizers. But skincare companies advocate for their shareholders, folks. They don't advocate for you. And they have a huge advantage. The huge advantage is, how many of you know what triethanolamine is? Isopropyl myristate. Raise your hand. Propylene glycol. I'll keep going. Right? You don't know what's in those bottles. So the important thing that matters on any skincare product is the ingredient listing. You don't understand the ingredient listing. So you buy X, you buy Y. I was talking to lovely Judy here. We have a vanity full of products. Eye creams, night creams, anti-wrinkle creams, anti-aging creams, toners, primers, groups. It reads like a Dr. Seuss novel, right? You don't need all that. So my patients were confused. Women were standing in front of the CVS wall, Target. They don't know what to buy. They're spending $50, $100, $500 an ounce. An ounce is a shot glass. That's $8,000 a pound. Think about this. Name any perishable you'd even consider spending $8,000 a pound on. This stuff's flying off the shelves. So I felt I had to do something. So I started a website. It's called Fryface, F-R-Y-F-A-C-E. I put it out there to help my patients pick product. I don't sell anything. I don't represent a skincare company. In full transparency, we get a 4% commission on being an Amazon affiliate. It's all donated to charity to date. I truly wanted to advocate for the consumer. Skincare companies are advocating for shareholders. The media, which is fantastic, but they want ratings. They want sensationalism. So, of course, you know, they're writing headlines that just are misleading. They're getting you to buy things.
So what is the most common trick that they use to get us to buy something?
The number one buzzword on any skincare product, well, who knows what it is? Anti-aging. They know what it is. It's a $26 billion industry. Do we know what causes aging? We haven't identified aging yet. We don't know what it is, yet alone a cosmetic that can cause it. I'll tell you one quick thing because I know we're time short here. Cosmetics by law in this country are not designed to change the structure or function of anything. This is not my opinion. This is how the law is written, the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. If it changes a structure or function or treats a disease in this country, by law, it's a drug. It must go through the FDA and get pre-market approval, prove efficacy, and that's a good thing. But all the products that you're buying, and they have these tiny little kind of marketing tool ingredients in them, you know them as retinol, niacinamide, coenzyme Q, vitamin C, vitamin E. These are cosmetics. By law, cannot permanently change the function or structure of your skin. And that's what I write about on the website. I try to advocate again and educate for the consumer. Thank you.
And she told me earlier, I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say this, that she wasn't sure how she fit in here. And I feel like it's so important to combine the holistic view with the science. Always, right? I see a lot of heads nodding. It's important that we have different perspectives when we're taking care of skin, hair, teeth, and of course other parts of our body also. So the holistic perspective is very important, and we appreciate you. Yeah. So Dr. Paul, she was talking about skin creams, are not allowed to change the face, and that there's laws of that. I don't know if it's a myth or not. I had my best friend tell me after I wore a ponytail for 2 years in a row, and I started losing my hair, and she's like, well, you gotta not wear a ponytail so much. I'm like, seriously? So how exactly does this play into hair loss?
Hi, so sure. If you wear a hairstyle that's pulling so hard that it hurts, you can cause traction on the hair follicle, basically the seed of hair growth, and it can stop growing and it can scar. And so that actually is a real thing. But most of us wearing a ponytail out there are not going to be causing traction. Most of the time it's tight cornrows or a really tight hairstyle, or if you're wearing like a tight band on the head for too long, it wouldn't be a good thing. But usually if you're wearing a hat, it's not going to cause a problem.
Okay, that's good to know, because I know in New York City often the whole ponytail, the low ponytail is a very chic look. So I feel like if we need to watch it, we need to know. What do you regard as the most successful treatment for thinning hair? I know probably it's going to vary from patient to patient.
Sure. So I look at hair like a garden, and that is, most of us know basics on gardening. We either need to put in plants or fertilize the plants. So if I'm looking at somebody's head, and sometimes it's both, but if I'm saying, oh, it'd be just wonderful to have better hair here, then we'll take some hair and move it there. And that's basically a redistribution. And the term is a hair transplant, but it's so much more advanced than what we all think of as a hair transplant. If you can picture somebody who's had a hair transplant, then you're not picturing what I'm doing. Because what I'm gonna do is gonna pass you in the street, you're not gonna see it, because it's that natural appearing. Instead of moving plugs, we're moving individual fibers and angling them using your existing hair as a guide, and the results are 100% they work. And the reason they work is that the hair that's being transferred grows from a different stem cell line. The hair on the head grows from two basic different lines, and the ones in the back on both men and women tend to age very slowly and be very resistant to androgens, or the hormones that cause for the aging and loss of hair. So when those hairs are moved, if you take an oak tree and put it into a pine tree forest, it's not going to turn into a pine tree. It's still an oak tree. So if you take a back hair and move it forward, you're going to have that back hair now in the front, and it's going to keep all of its awesome growth potential, and it really wants to grow. It's unbelievably successful. So hair transplant on my list. Other stuff in terms of medicines, minoxidil, which we talked about, either as oral topical, fabulous. Spironolactone, amazing. Finasteride, Propecia, the study showed that it didn't work for women, and then they redid the studies at a higher dose and showed, hey, maybe it does work. So that's coming back into fashion. And then PRP, blood treatment, which you may or may not be familiar with. In our blood, there's different cells. The platelets have growth factors in them. During an office visit, blood can be taken, centrifuged. Those platelets are extracted, opened up. We now have your own growth factors, which can be used for the growth and stability of hair. And it's unbelievably safe. You're not going to have an allergy to yourself. You won't reject your own growth factors. And it's an office procedure. Patients are back to work right afterwards.
Thank you for opening our eyes to so many different ways that you can help us with that, because I feel like I watched my mom, lose a lot of hair, and I just kept thinking, my gosh, that's my future. What am I going to do? So that's great that there are all those opportunities out there, procedures, medication. Dr. Greco, so we're in the age of social media, right? And, a lot of us are worried, maybe as we age or even just naturally, drink a lot of wine, coffee, I don't know, it stains your teeth. What are the best procedures for whitening the teeth, for straightening the teeth, for knowing even what you need?
It's a really good question. So, of course, in our office, we offer, really good prescription strength and, monitored by the dentist up close while it's happening, but whitening treatments, of course. And we also, of course, offer clear aligner therapy. But, being biologic, we try to treat the root cause across the board. So if I see someone who has stain or who has crowding with their teeth, what's causing the stain? What's causing the crowding? Because anything else that I use to treat them is really just a Band-Aid. So, I obviously go through with a patient, what their diet is like, what their health is like, and what could really be causing stain. But when it comes to crowding or, misalignment of someone's teeth, is it something that, started when they were younger, they had braces and they relapsed? Or are they someone who never had any orthodontia and they were always crowded and the crowding just continued to get worse? So we really try to figure out that first and foremost. But in order to treat it properly, what was the cause? So what we do in our office, if I see someone who has, significant crowding, I look for a few other things as well. Are they grinding? Do they have a tongue tie? Do they have a high vaulted palate? There are other anatomical factors, or red flags, I should say, that I look out for to see maybe there's a potential sleep apnea or airway compromise. So in our office, we actually offer an at-home sleep study, which is a little bit more on the accurate side versus one that's done in a hospital or a sleep center. And we have a physician who, reviews the results and we discuss them with the patient. But the treatment for those is incredibly conservative. So we could either make an appliance that's very similar to a palate expander for either the upper or the lower jaw or both. And it helps sort of expand. It puts pressure on certain parts of the palate, certain what we actually call mesenchymal stem cells in the bone to cause them to want to grow and divide. And that allows for the jaws to basically expand and increase the volume of air that someone might have while they're sleeping at night. So this would also correct crowding that someone might have in their teeth where they originally thought, oh, maybe I could just use a little bit of Invisalign. It really treats it from a more comprehensive standpoint and allows there to be a much longer lasting result than having relapse.
So you said that there could be a correlation between dentistry and sleep apnea.
Yes.
Wow, fascinating. I'm sending my husband to you tomorrow. So, Dr. Fry, you know, my best friend and I are always trading eye creams back and forth, and you know, she's got the bags, I've got the circles, and I feel like, you know, I was a magazine editor for Cosmopolitan and More Magazine. I had my toe in the beauty sector, in the beauty world there. I tried hundreds of products. And I heard you say on a podcast that eye creams don't work. Can you please explain that?
Oh, sure. So when you say they don't work, there's nothing in an eye cream that is specific for the eye. So if you can't put a product here, you shouldn't be putting it here. Okay? If you shouldn't be putting it here, you shouldn't be putting it here. Make sense?
Sorry, the quote was, you don't need an eye cream.
You don't need an eye cream. So I'll give you an example. Neutrogena's Hydro Boost. Maybe some of you have bought it. Now, it's a great product. I know this because I test products in my office. I have a machine, and I actually test how well a moisturizer can increase water content of your skin. It's done through a probe. It's electrical conductance. It gives you a little charge. And you put a product on each forearm for a week. You come back to my office, and I remeasure your arm after getting a baseline, and I can tell you what works. Neutrogena Hydro Boost is a great facial moisturizer. It works great. When you look at its ingredient listing and compare it to their eye cream ingredient listing, it's identical. It's the same ingredient listing. If you don't believe me, go online and look. Go buy it at the store. So by the way, it's sold for 4 times as much. And I will add a night cream. Now, the night cream thing is hysterical. Night creams are usually thicker. Women don't want to put a thick cream on their face in the morning and then make up over it. I get that. Usually don't have sunscreen elements in them. Why would you want to put a sunscreen filter on your face at night, right, when you go to bed? But other than that, it's the same ingredients. So if you make a night cream in Korea and you fly it across the Pacific here to New York, it's 13 hours later. Do you think you're screwing up that night cream? I mean, if you work the night shift, do you need a day cream? Folks, this makes no sense. And that's why you all buy so many products. You bounce product to product. How well these products work depends on how well they moisturize. And they're good moisturizers. I'm not saying they're not. But you can get a really good quality moisturizer, this big, from Target, Walmart, CVS, for $8 to $10. And yes, you can put it on your face. I do. Or you can buy the $500, the $8,000 a pound because you like how it looks on your vanity. That's fine too. I just want you to know there's no difference. And how well it works, there's no correlation between what you pay and how well it works as a moisturizer. And I know that because I've been testing them for decades.
So what are the...
See, they know it too. They know it. I just need to remind them. They know it. They all know it.
So what exactly are the basics that we should do? I understand there's 3 basics.
There's one basic.
One basic.
I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't get anything out of today, one basic, and it's one word. Everyone knows what it is, right? Sunscreen. Now, it is a drug. It's regulated as a drug in this country, which means it goes through the FDA. It passes federal, safety efficacy standards. Sunscreen is the single best anti-aging product on the market, prevents sun damage, prevents those pigments, and there's more research out of Australia. Adele Green, she's putting sunscreen on people, and 4, 5, 6 years later, seeing the benefits, the anti-aging, what you call those anti-aging pigment spots, wrinkling, the benefits of wearing sunscreen every single day. And I don't mean in your makeup, because you'd have to put on 15 layers of makeup to get what that SPF says on the label. Real sunscreen. And the best sunscreen is the one you'll use. I like a stick. I have a friend who likes a spray, sprays it into her hand, puts it on her face. Some people like a lotion. It doesn't matter what sunscreen. Pick one you like, and after you brush your teeth every day, and I'm sure you do, put your sunscreen on.
I hope so.
You will thank me 5 years from now.
There you go.
Easy enough.
So,
You know what? That's a great question, and there's no science. I have half of my colleagues say moisturize first, half say do the sunscreen first. Some say it depends if it's a physical block or a chemical block. The truth is, I don't know the answer to that question. I can tell you, I put my sunscreen on first, and I make up over it, and I'm doing just fine. I'm really 92. Just kidding.
so on that same
30 or
thing,
higher.
Dr. Paul, what should we do to our hair to keep it, to stay out of your office?
So I think that hair can be a manifestation of your body's health, probably similar to dental. There can be certain conditions, if they're untreated, like a thyroid issue or anemia, which can manifest early as hair loss. So I think going to see your doctor and just making sure you take care of your body, but I kind of feel like if you've arrived here today, I'm preaching to the choir on this. That's part one. I think that some hair needs to be shampooed often because it's oily, and other people, 1-2 times a week is right. So there's not a magic recommendation for everyone. And I don't think there's a perfect shampoo for everyone. And I think looking at shampoo and conditioner to grow hair, it probably isn't going to do that for you. If you have dandruff or itchy scalp, it can help with that. But the single best topical to grow hair is Rogaine. If you put that on and go in the shower and wash it out, it doesn't work. So there's no real reason why if you put shampoo on and wash 98% of it out, it's going to work. So it will change the feel and texture of your hair, but it's not really, if they're saying, hair growth shampoo, I'm not buying it.
Dr. Greco, same question. What can we do, to maintain our oral health, to feel more confident and to know that we're taking care of ourselves the best we can?
I think the most important thing is to really, and this very much became an issue throughout, the pandemic, but regular checkups and cleanings are paramount. In our office, we actually recommend you come in for a good cleaning. You can have a checkup every other, but a good cleaning at least every season. So that really equates to about 3 to 4 times a year. And the most important thing is to make sure, like you said, using products that are actually going to help maintain a healthy oral environment. For example, Revitin is here today. That toothpaste is the absolute best at maintaining the oral microbiome, as opposed to something like a really conventional toothpaste that might have, unnecessary fluoride or sodium lauryl sulfate, which can really decimate the good flora that we actually want to proliferate in our oral environment.
Oh, it can decimate it. That's serious.
True.
You just buy, like Dr. Fry, you're saying, you just kind of reach out and you get a toothpaste or you get a moisturizer, and it's like, it could be decimating.
Yes, it can be.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it can be very harsh.
Dr. Fry, what is the most dangerous, a product that you can think of that we may be using right now that may not be good for us, or a type of product, or something that we, don't even realize what's happening there?
I think most people don't realize what they're putting on their bodies, frankly, in any regard. But I can tell you it's not so much what they're using, it's what they're not using, and I think that's sunscreen. Look, whether a product is dangerous or not, any chemical is not about the chemical, it's about the dose. So the example I use is botulism toxin. If I give you 3,000 units of botulism toxin, you will die of botulism. If I stick 30 units in your forehead, you'll walk around with no expression. And 3 million people in this country do that all the time. So it's not the ingredient, it's the amount of ingredient, right? I'm a runner, water, I drink water. But if you consume 6 liters of water at one time, you'll have hyponatremia, your salt levels drop, you'll go into a coma. It's not the product, it's the amount. And that's true of all the ingredients you see when they sensationalize these things in the media, parabens and phthalates. It's not the product, it's the amount of the product. And truthfully, the skincare industry is a very safe industry. There were 40,000 fatalities on the highways last year. Is anyone giving up their cars? You don't think about that. Right. So to answer your question, I can't say there's anything dangerous. I think beneficially wise, the realization that sunscreen is the single best skincare product on the market. If you want healthy skin, live a healthy lifestyle. It's not the sexy answer. It doesn't involve lasers, but it involves getting a good night of sleep, and it involves a good eating, healthy eating. It involves, I think, some laughter. I have no science to prove this whatsoever, but I am a firm believer that laughter is good for you, and exercise. And aside from that, here's my last thoughts, because I know we're going to run out of time. Kindness matters. Health matters, and accomplishments matter. And none of those things comes in a tube, a jar, or a syringe. I'm just saying. So you're a fabulous crowd, and we can answer some questions afterwards if you'd like. Thank you.
Dr. Paul, did you want to add to that? Because I feel like something struck you there that you wanted to say about the product. No? Oh, okay. All right. What is one thing that you wish women knew before they came into your office?
Sure. So I think the biggest myth that I hear is women come in and they say, I'm not a candidate for a hair transplant. And I think that there's this just common theme that's out there, and women definitely are candidates for hair transplant. And the places that are most commonly transplanted are, I put my hair in a ponytail and I have this triangle shape and it just drives me nuts. Can you change the shape? And the answer is yes. And we have total control. We can make it a sweetheart or oval, and we can do it together. And we're gonna look at your frontalis muscle and look at the shape of your forehead and your facial structure. And I look at your face like a painting, and your painting deserves a beautiful frame.
Aww. That's so sweet. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I want to, impress upon you that it doesn't have to. You don't have to go under anesthesia to, help with hair loss. We were
Right,
talking
so-
about that a lot earlier.
Yeah, so the procedure is done under local anesthesia. It takes anywhere from about 4 to 6 hours. You eat breakfast, we get lunch, numbing medicine. If you're very anxious, we can get an anesthesiologist, but most of the time that's not necessary. People go home, and the next day they're able to work from home. You're back in an office at a week, probably no gym or sports for 2 weeks because the hairs are held in by a scab and just a beautiful fit in where they're placed, so they're not sewn in place, and it works. I have never done a hair transplant and not had it work, so that's pretty exciting.
That is exciting. Wow. Oh, question? What about women who have overplucked
Yes.
eyebrows?
So the trend has gone in both directions. So overpluck, now we like a lot of eyebrow. Eyebrow hair transplant is an option for women. Obviously, microblading is a very quick and easy option, but if you're like, I want more three-dimensional hair, a transplant is an option. In those situations, I will cherry pick the hairs that look most like the eyebrow, and I am so passionate about getting the angle of exit correct, because eyebrow hairs can exit at about 15 degrees off, and we don't want to have eyebrow hairs that are growing out and are unnatural appearing, because that would be very, very bad.
Awesome. And what do you wish women knew before they walked into your office? Or maybe that they're not even thinking about right now?
I think that knowing exactly what is going on in their mouth and what they can do to maintain that, like I said before, knowing materials, knowing what the status is of something that we might be, keeping our eye on. I think the most important thing for me is empowerment. That's why I'm very quick when a patient is in the chair to take very small, quick photos of every single tooth and discuss it and show it with the patient. I think empowerment is my biggest my biggest goal whenever I have anyone in the chair, really.
Skincare hoax. I want to talk a little bit more about your background because I feel like we know the two of them a little bit better. Tell me how you got into this industry. Why did you start your website for women, for awareness?
I'm a nice Jewish girl from the suburbs. I have a pretty uneventful childhood. Go off to Boston University where I was going to major in music. I was very bad at music, so I had to do something else. So I went home and told my parents I was going to med school. They're the only Jewish parents that were like, what, after all those lessons, you're not going? They got over it. Was fortunate enough to go right here to Cornell Medical School on 68th Street, if there are any Cornellians around. Did my dermatology training at Mount Sinai, but my college and medical school training had a lot of chemistry. I'm a chemistry nerd. I was not proud of that as in college, but I am a full-fledged chemistry nerd, and I love it. I started studying skincare ingredients, started studying the ingredient listings, and realized there's something wrong here, and the rest is history. I became a consultant for skincare companies and trying to educate consumers because, again, you don't know what's in those bottles. Everybody, we pick on individual ingredients. Even my colleagues, and I have the utmost respect for my colleagues, but you have to understand 80% of them are selling product. And many of them don't know the ingredients, short of like the hot ones, the niacinamides, the retinoids. But if you ask them about cosmetic chemistry formulation, it's just not part of dermatology training. And so it's they're well intended, and I believe that wholeheartedly. But this is sort of why I got into what I got into, and so I started the website, like I said, Fryface. I was doing some consulting for some online media groups, and they said, put it in a book. I put it in the book. I called it Lotions, Potions, and Fairy Tales, but the publisher didn't like that, so they changed it to The Skincare Hoax, and that's why I'm here.
I feel like we've... Oh, questions.
Any options for thinning eyelashes?
Yeah, so there's a topical called Latisse, which is fabulous. You have to be very careful if you have blue eyes or light colored eyes, because occasionally it can change permanently the color of the iris. There are theoretically eyebrow transplants, but I don't perform them at this time because the hair is not an eyelash and it doesn't stop growing. And the amount of maintenance required is just so overwhelming for the patient that it may be not their best choice.
This is for all three of you. Is Botox dangerous? What's the verdict?
Is Botox dangerous?
My dermatologist wants to Botox my neck, my ears, and I told her.
Well, I'm happy to answer that question. So again, it's not the botulism toxin, which is by toxicology standards is probably the most toxic product on the planet. It's not the product, it's the amount of the product. Well, it denatures, it doesn't last. So again, whether you need Botox is another question. There are uses of Botox besides Botox cosmetic. There are really true medical reasons why people benefit from injecting botulism. Spastic necks and spastic muscles. Children get it for paresis. There's real reasons to use it. It's not my expertise, but to answer your question, in the right hands and the right doses, I think it's a fairly safe modality. Yeah, listen, we can kill anybody. 3,000 units, we can kill anybody here with Botox.
So my background is not as dermatologist. I'm actually a facial plastic surgeon. And so I do perform Botox in the office, and I have not read any long-term studies that repeated use is particularly dangerous for overall health. The muscles that are being Botoxed basically stop firing, so they do get weaker. And so there can be a little bit of what's called atrophy of the muscle. If you think about it, you're doing that because if you keep wrinkling your forehead, you get forehead lines. And so a lot of people think that this is a good thing. So you want to be careful how it's used, the amount clearly, and you want to go to somebody that's doing this at a high level because you don't want the molecule to sit outside. You want to watch it be taken out of that jar and have it really fresh so the jar doesn't have any contamination. That's how it can get dangerous.
Yes, and just to piggyback on that, I have gone through extensive Botox training myself, and I do utilize it in very specific situations for a TMJ disorder or when someone's in active dental treatment and at very limited doses.
Back there?
I actually have two questions. Just one quick question on the sunscreen, because I'm a big believer, of course, in that. But, if I use, like, just a foundation or a little, like, base, makeup base every day that comes with sunscreen, is that as acceptable, or do you like?
It's better than nothing, but you're not going to apply enough foundation to get the SPF on the label.
So you would do both?
I would put on sunscreen first and then go put on your.
And then I see it's in the, in my.
Sure.
In my thing.
Sure.
And the other question, I have a 30-year-old daughter who has the most, she's 30, so she's gorgeous and her skin is perfect. But this big trend now that the baby Botox, like the preliminary, do it before you have, enough is, precaution. What do you think?
What's your question exactly?
About doing Botox when you're young and your skin is still.
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong person. I have two daughters, and I am a firm believer that, most of my patients are awesome. I don't know. Again, I'm into wellness. I have nothing against beauty, but women spend on the average 55 minutes a day getting ready for themselves, time, energy, and money. And, this is an interesting study I read. They took people and put them in 5 groups. Number 5 was like the really great looking people. 1 were the homely looking people, sorry to use that expression. And in the middle we had 2, 3, and 4. The people in group 5 are no happier than the people in group 1. And after decades of sociology and psychological studies, there was one indicator of true happiness. I'm sure you all know what it is. You all want to know what it is, right? Think about your problems in life, right? It has more to do with who you're talking to, who you're not talking to. The number one indicator of true happiness is how strong your interpersonal relationships are. Now, you know this. Now, if you're spending an hour a day trying to look good, time, energy, and money, I think it'd be better spent. Tell your 30-year-old daughter. It'd be better spent going out to dinner, making a conversation. Again, I value looking good. I value presenting yourself well. There's pride in that. But I think we've gone too far. They use this term beauty sick. This country is beauty sick, and I don't mean that in a negative way. But anyway, it's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, as a former high fashion model, I totally get, and you would resonate with this too, what you're talking about. It's a big issue out there. Okay, so does anyone have on the dental side, a question? You do.
Yes, what about complete total ignorance? You did everything you should not be doing
So once you're talking about loss of enamel, you're exposing the inner portion of the tooth, which is the dentin, which is a naturally darker shade than enamel. This is where, it's interesting, the first question being about biologic dentistry not being the same thing as cosmetic dentistry. Veneers, porcelain veneers, are very much functional as much as they are aesthetic. So when you're talking about the loss of enamel, yes, absolutely, it's important to know why that happened and prevent it from becoming worse or be causing another effect other than loss of enamel. But in that case, it would be really important to consider if you're a candidate for veneers, which are a very thin porcelain laminate. They can be done extremely conservatively these days, and they can look very, very natural. So, making use of a treatment like that is very beneficial.
Do we have time for another quick question? Yeah, you have 2 minutes. Okay, all the way back there.
I have a question about sunscreen. You mentioned put it right on
What?
in the morning, and it says it's only good for 2 hours. So what's the use of putting it on at 7 o'clock in the morning?
Broad spectrum sunscreens with water resistance. Well, it's water resistant for 80 minutes if you were swimming. Sunscreens are designed to last. I don't know what you're talking about, but it would last you, if it's a broad spectrum, water resistant, it would last you most of the day. If you can reapply it, great, but you don't have to.
And we have a question all the way in the back. What's your take on fluoride?
Yes, so fluoride is, again, another, hot button
Good question, by the way.
Yes, it's a very good question. So fluoride is not, while it was found to be very beneficial when it was first discovered to help remineralize teeth, remineralize enamel, it is not replacing something that we already have in our bodies naturally. We don't have fluoride in our bone, in our teeth, in cartilage. We don't have it existing in our own bodies. So, there are very particular situations. If someone has a situation where they have rampant decay, maybe fluoride can be useful. But generally speaking, fluoridation in the water, it's overdone. It can cause some pretty serious systemic issues with bone brittleness in general, thyroid issues with the pineal gland. So it's hard because, we use it to drink. We clean our dishes with it. We do our laundry with it. It's everywhere. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, but then it's incorporated in most toothpaste.
Right.
So what is your take on that?
My take is that it's not necessary, which is it's a controversial take. But fluoride is not, like I said, replacing something that's missing in your body. So if you're going to try to remineralize your enamel, we try to focus on something, we focus on proper nutrition, proper hygiene, and I really track patients very closely to make sure we're successful that way, and really try to avoid fluoride the best we can.
Well, thank you all for attending today, and thank you for, making us aware of the things that we have to be aware of. Thank you for laughing at my jokes, and I can't wait to hear Paulina come on stage.